The 1967 Shelby GT500 is the car that defines automotive desire. Carroll Shelby's most powerful creation of the decade, a 428 cubic inch police interceptor V8 making 355 horsepower, which everyone knew was a massive understatement. Eleanor's spiritual ancestor. The car that made Mustangs relevant to serious performance enthusiasts who thought the standard pony car was too soft for real driving. Magazines worshipped it. Collectors obsess over it. Auction houses fight over the right to sell one because the bidding wars are spectacular. And the values? Clean, documented GT500s are pushing $150,000 to $250,000, with exceptional examples crossing $400,000 at major events. This is the holy grail of Shelby muscle, the car every serious Ford enthusiast dreams about owning. But what the glossy auction catalogs and reverent magazine features won't tell you is the brutal, uncomfortable truth. Owning a real 1967 Shelby GT500 is one of the most terrifying, financially devastating, and psychologically exhausting experiences in the entire collector car world. The GT500 carries a unique burden that no other American classic can match, a combination of Hollywood mythology, rampant fraud, crushing parts costs, and an authentication system so broken that even experts disagree constantly. Before we rip the curtain back on this nightmare, hit that subscribe button, because garage history is about to expose the dark reality hiding behind the most romanticized Shelby ever built, the Eleanor curse. Let's start with the single most destructive thing that ever happened to the GT500 market, a Hollywood movie. Nicolas Cage's 2000 film Gone in 60 Seconds featured a customized GT500 nicknamed Eleanor, and it ruined the collector market for decades. Here's why. Eleanor turned the GT500 from a serious collector car into a pop culture icon, which sounds like a good thing until you understand what that actually means for ownership. First, it exploded demand far beyond the supply of real cars. Suddenly, millions of people who'd never heard of Shelby American wanted a GT500 because of Eleanor. That demand surge created massive financial incentive for fraud, counterfeiting, and exaggeration. Fake GT500s flooded the market almost overnight. Second, it created the Eleanor replica industry, a multi-million-dollar business that builds Eleanor replica Mustangs and occasionally passes them off as genuine Shelbys to unsuspecting buyers. These replicas are everywhere, priced from $80,000 to $150,000, and some are deliberately misrepresented as real GT500s. Third, and most devastatingly, the Eleanor name itself is legally protected by Carroll Shelby's estate, which has pursued aggressive litigation against replica builders and even private sellers who use the Eleanor name without licensing. Buy a GT500 with any Eleanor branding, and you might inherit a legal nightmare involving intellectual property disputes that cost more to resolve than the car is worth. The Eleanor curse has made GT500 authentication a legal, financial, and ethical minefield that terrifies even experienced collectors. The Shelby certification nightmare. Here's something that shocks most people new to the Shelby market. The official Shelby certification system is broken, and it's making authentication worse instead of better. After Carroll Shelby's death in 2012, Shelby American continued operating and maintained the official registry of documented Shelby vehicles. Sounds reassuring, right? Wrong. The certification system has been criticized by Shelby historians and serious collectors for years because it's created more confusion than clarity. First, Shelby American will certify rebuilt or recreated Shelbys, cars that started as regular Mustangs and were converted to Shelby specification, as long as the conversion uses proper Shelby components and the original VIN belongs to a genuine Shelby. This means a car that was completely destroyed and rebuilt from scratch can receive official Shelby certification, making it appear fully authentic to uninformed buyers. Second, the registry itself has gaps and errors from the 1960s that have never been fully corrected. Some genuine GT500s aren't in the registry because paperwork was lost. Some questionable cars are in the registry because fraudulent documentation was accepted decades ago before authentication standards tightened. Third, competing authentication services have emerged, some legitimate, some not, creating a chaotic landscape where multiple authoritative certifications exist and contradict each other. One service says your car is genuine. Another says it's suspect. Who do buyers trust? Nobody knows, and that uncertainty destroys value. The fiberglass fabrication problem. The 1967 GT500 had something that distinguished it from regular Mustangs: extensive fiberglass body modifications. The front end, hood, rear valance, and various trim pieces were fiberglass rather than steel, designed by Shelby American to give the car a more aggressive, purposeful appearance. This design decision created an authentication nightmare that haunts every GT500 on the market today. Here's the problem. Fiberglass is easy to fabricate. Anyone with moderate composite skills can reproduce Shelby's fiberglass components with reasonable accuracy. And thousands of people have done exactly that, building fiberglass noses, hoods, and trim pieces that they've attached to regular Mustangs to create fake GT500s. Identifying genuine Shelby fiberglass from quality reproductions requires expertise that most appraisers don't have. The original pieces have specific layup patterns, gel coat characteristics, and mounting hole locations that differ subtly from reproductions. But these differences require hands-on inspection by someone who's examined dozens of genuine examples, and those experts are rare and expensive. Worse, the original fiberglass components are fragile compared to steel. They crack, chip, and deteriorate with age. Finding a genuine GT500 with all original fiberglass in good condition is nearly impossible, which means almost every GT500 on the market has some reproduction fiberglass, raising questions about how much of the car is actually original. The VIN and documentation fraud epidemic. The 1967 Shelby GT500 is arguably the most counterfeited American muscle car in existence, and understanding why reveals just how terrifying the market has become. Shelby American built 2,048 GT500s in 1967, but the number of cars claiming GT500 identity today is multiples of that. Professional fraud operations have spent decades perfecting the art of creating fake GT500s, and their methods have become so sophisticated that they're nearly impossible to detect without extensive forensic examination. The VIN situation is particularly dangerous. Shelby American used a unique VIN stamping system that differed from Ford's standard procedure, adding an additional Shelby-specific number to the data plate. Counterfeiters have sourced genuine data plates from wrecked GT500s and transplanted them onto regular Mustangs. They've fabricated fake Shelby data plates using period-correct materials and stamping equipment. They've purchased genuine wrecked GT500 titles and built new cars around those legal identities. And they've exploited gaps in state title systems to launder fake VINs through multiple ownership transfers until the fraudulent history becomes nearly impossible to trace. The paperwork that should protect buyers, invoices, window stickers, Shelby American delivery records is equally compromised. Forgers have been reproducing these documents for decades using period-correct paper stock, correct typewriter fonts, and authentic-looking period details. Some forgeries are so good that handwriting analysts and document experts have been fooled. The 428 Police Interceptor engine crisis. The heart of the GT500 was Ford's 428 cubic-inch Police Interceptor V8, a torque monster that made real-world power well above its conservative 355 horsepower factory rating. This engine was the GT500's defining feature, its greatest selling point, and its most devastating vulnerability for modern owners. Here's the brutal reality. Genuine, numbers-matching 428 Police Interceptor engines in GT500s are almost extinct. The 428 was a brutally stressed engine that was pushed beyond its design limits by enthusiastic owners who'd bought the car specifically to drive hard and fast. Engine failures were common even when these cars were new. Connecting rod failures, bearing failures, head gasket failures from overheating. And when engines failed, they were rebuilt with whatever parts were available, often non-original components that compromised numbers-matching status. The 428 Police Interceptor was also used in other Ford performance vehicles, creating a massive secondary market for these engines. Original GT500 engines were frequently removed and sold separately, worth more as standalone engines to restorers than the value they added to a complete car. What replaced them? Anything that would fit: 390s, 428 Cobra Jets, 429s, even small blocks in desperate situations. Finding a GT500 with a genuine, numbers-matching 428 Police Interceptor today is an extraordinary event that commands massive price premiums. But verifying engine authenticity requires forensic examination of casting dates, machining marks, and assembly details that most buyers are completely unqualified to evaluate. The restoration money furnace. If the authentication nightmare doesn't break you, The restoration costs will finish the job. Restoring a 1967 GT500 to correct, show quality specification is one of the most expensive undertakings in the entire collector car hobby. And the costs start before you even begin, because finding a legitimate starting point, a real, documented GT500 in restorable condition, now costs $80,000 to $150,000, depending on condition and documentation. Then the real spending begins. Correct fiberglass components from reputable suppliers cost $15,000 to $25,000 for a complete front end, hood, and trim package. And correct is a relative term, because even the best reproductions require hand fitting and modification to achieve proper alignment. Original interior components specific to the GT500, the Shelby-specific steering wheel, the additional gauge cluster, the unique door panels, cost multiples of equivalent Mustang parts because they were produced in tiny quantities and survivors are rare. Correct Shelby-specific exterior components, the unique taillight panel, the side scoops, the Shelby badging, are increasingly difficult to find in original form, and reproduction quality varies enormously. Shops with genuine GT500 restoration expertise charge $150 to $200 per hour, and a comprehensive restoration takes 1,500 to 2,500 hours. Do that calculation and prepare yourself for a number that will make you physically ill. Total comprehensive restoration budget? Expect $300,000 to $500,000 for a truly correct, documented GT500 restoration done to current standards. And the worst part? The market may not give you that investment back, because buyers increasingly distrust restored cars in favor of unrestored survivors where authenticity is more verifiable. The Carroll Shelby Legacy Legal Minefield. Owning a GT500 means navigating a legal landscape surrounding Carroll Shelby's name, likeness, and intellectual property that has become extraordinarily complex and expensive to navigate. After Shelby's death in 2012, his estate established aggressive protection over all Shelby-related intellectual property. This affects GT500 owners in ways most never anticipate. First, selling a GT500 with Eleanor branding or styling requires licensing from the Shelby estate, licensing that costs thousands and is rarely granted to private sellers. Auction houses know this and carefully police any Eleanor-adjacent descriptions, but private sale platforms are less regulated, creating legal risk for unknowing buyers. Second, using the Shelby name in advertising or promotion without authorization, even for selling a genuine Shelby, can trigger cease and desist letters from the estate's legal team. Private sellers have received legal threats for simply describing their car accurately as a Shelby GT500 in online listings, because the estate monitors for unauthorized use of protected terminology. Third, the official Shelby continuation vehicles, new cars built and certified by Shelby American after the originals, have created confusion in the market about what constitutes an authentic Shelby product. Some continuation vehicles have been misrepresented as vintage originals, and the legal fallout from those transactions has scarred multiple buyers who thought they were purchasing protected, verified collectibles. And that's the terrifying truth about owning a 1967 Shelby GT500. From the Eleanor curse to the certification nightmare, from fiberglass fraud to legal minefields, this dream car carries a burden that most collectors are completely unprepared for. If this reality check changed how you think about GT500 ownership, smash that like button and drop a comment. Does knowing the truth about what ownership actually involves change your dream? Or is the GT500 still worth every terrifying challenge it brings? And if you want more honest truth about legendary collector cars, more reality behind the mythology, and more stories that expose what the auction world hides from buyers, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because Garage History is committed to telling the truth that the industry doesn't want you to hear. Thanks for watching, and remember, the most legendary cars carry the heaviest burdens. Research obsessively, verify everything, and never let desire override diligence. Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical, and keep the history real.